Okay, folks, we're going to attempt to make Capuns tonight. And it's basically a Swiss recipe for, it's kind of a dumpling wrapped in Swiss chard leaves and baked. So they're kind of dumplings with flour and meat, and we're going to make the dough first. Meat and many herbs. So I have 300 grams of flour. I'm using metric because that's, that's the way the recipe comes. And it works for me because you get more exact measurements than using cups. So I put a quarter teaspoon of salt. I have 100 milliliters of milk, and now I'm going to add 50 milliliters of water. That's going to be hard to judge because this doesn't measure. Oh, actually, I have a great device, but that measures down to the milliliter. However, if I open that cupboard, the camera will be hit. And I'm starting, and I don't want to start again. So I'm eyeballing it. So that's 50 milliliters of water. Then we have 3 eggs. 1. And did I ever tell you that if you hit on here, you're more likely, the edge of the bowl, you're more likely to get shards of shell in, and if you hit on a flat surface, you're less likely. It can happen. I'm not saying it's impossible to happen. So we're just gonna make our dough, and then this is gonna be stirred up nicely into the dough, and we're gonna cover it. Well, first we gotta mix it, right? And then we're gonna cover it for 30 minutes. And it's producing something like almost a pasta dough. And except for it has milk and more eggs than pasta has. And we're just gonna keep doing this till we incorporate the liquid into, and the eggs into. Notice I'm not using a spatula, I'm using my Swedish mixer for the first time, actually. Just felt like this was the time for it, and it is. So now we have something that can rest, and after while this is resting, hold on here, let's just get it together. Okay, I'm gonna put plastic wrap on that and let it sit for 30 minutes. In the meantime, I'll be chopping up parsley, chives, and mint for the filling, and 2 kinds of meat, which I'm substituting because I don't have Swiss ingredients, but I have things that I think could be great substitutes. Please don't beat me up if you disagree. If you're Swiss and know better, I'm sure you do. Okay, that's the first stage. I'll cover it and I'll get back to you. Okay, here comes the difficult part for me, in the sense that I have to make substitutions that I think make sense. So I've finally chopped half a cup of parsley. Italian parsley has more flavor, mint, and chives. But now we have the meat. So what you really want in the dough is sausage. And that is a dried salami made with around 60 to 70% pork, a percentage of beef, and a percentage of speck. So I couldn't get that, obviously. Well, obviously to me. And so I chose Rosette de Lyon because it's a dried hard sausage, and I'm going to pretend that it's Swiss sausage, and we want it calls for 1 Swiss sausage, and I looked it up on Pro Montagna's website, and I learned that there's around 200 grams in a sausage. So, okay. And let's see. Oh, I guess they are quite. I'm glad I didn't eat it all last night when I was hungry in the middle of the night. This whole piece of Rosette de Lyon. I actually think most of the Rosette is, okay, that's a little over 200. So I'll cut this in half. When I get the hang of this, that's 200 perfectly. So there's no beef in here, and there's no speck. So I'm using air-dried Coppa di Parma for the speck, because you can't buy speck where I am. Maybe you can in big cities. And I'm just gonna chop up the speck, but I want to reserve some for the, let's get myself maybe 50 grams of speck. Can you see? I'm just chopping it, and I'm measuring it. Maybe it's just going to be, I want to have speck left, or Coppa, for the topping. So I think I'll just use this amount. So it's really going to be just 25 grams of speck. By the way, like I said, it's actually Italian Coppa di Parma, which is a dried kind of prosciutto, I suppose. Also pork. And now I have 26 grams of that. And then I'm going to, I got very thick cut bacon. It's actually called belly pork, or I'm not sure why they're calling it that. So it's just very thick bacon, and I want 100 grams of this. The rest will be for the topping. So we have 226 grams, and it should be 326 grams. So I'm just gonna add, this is not the meat knife, this is the chopping knife. Okay, that's too much. I'll take the meat part, leave the fat part alone. And that's perfect. Okay, so it's not quite perfect, but I don't want to overload the meat. I feel like that's a lot. So 320 grams of meat and the spices, and these need to be chopped into tiny bits. This I will dice and fry off to make bacon bits with the dried Coppa di Parma shoulder, pork shoulder. And first, I also want to mention you have to skin these. And I'm hoping it's not too much for that dough. I'm gonna eyeball it actually. And I can use this for another recipe if I have too much. But I have a feeling I have too much. We'll see. Okay, so I've revised this idea of having over 300 grams of meat in my little bowl of dough. And I used a towel because it just doesn't make sense. So I'm reserving the speck, which is not speck, my version, what I think will be speck-like, for the topping. fry that up with bacon. I'm gonna add around 80 grams of the chopped hard sausage, dried sausage, and around 50 grams of the chopped bacon, all of the mint, all of the chives, one small onion from the Secret Garden. I still have a few of those to use up, and a flat leaf parsley. And then we're gonna, because I think that if I used all that meat, I put the rest of the sausage in the fridge for another day. If you used all that meat, there would be nothing left. So there would be nothing but meat and no dumpling. So we're just gonna stir it up, and it's actually become, there's no yeast in this, but it has become puffy, and that's what you want. I don't know if you can see it, it's bouncing back, but that's partially because of the formation of gluten, and also, ooh, it's really good. I like the look of it. See, you have to use your own, perception when you're kind of basically your own intuition and based on experience, when you're basically making something with where you don't have the proper ingredients or the exact ingredients from Switzerland or Europe or wherever. And so I got this ball here, and I think that the ratios look quite good. That looks like something nice. And I'm just gonna keep mixing because it's not evenly distributed. And this dough is really springy. Amazing, because it's not really, something I expected out of an unyeasted dough or a non-yeasted dough. So I'm just gonna keep doing this till I feel like it's evenly distributed. You don't have to watch all that. But the next stage, I'll be blanching and shocking my, see, there's a little bit, this isn't mixed in yet. I'll probably water my hands and use my hands. I think that's what the grandmas and yayas, and I think that's what people, home cooks, would do. But I'll just keep till I feel it's mixed. Looks really good. And then I have to blanch the chard. Let me show you the chard. I think I have enough chard leaves left. And we'll blanch them in boiling water, salted boiling water. And we'll throw them into ice, but first I'll cut them, the stems off, because we only want the leaves. And that should be good. I'm just gonna let this sit again with the towel on top. Okay. Okay, my lovelies, I've got this beautiful enriched kind of dough, sticky dough filling. And we got our leaves that have been patted dry, and we're gonna do 1 tablespoon per leaf. And we're gonna roll them, and we're gonna try to fold in the sides if they're large enough. And we're gonna put them in our prepared dish. By prepared, I mean buttered in this case. And we're gonna keep doing this using the shape of the leaf to decide, well, the shape and the size of the leaf, to decide where to lay it and how to roll it. See, I want to get the sides in a bit. And I'm not sure I mentioned, but I cut the stems off. They were very thick. We're just going to roll those up like that. And we're just going to We've got our mixture here, which is full of goodness, many herbs. Some of these are a little bit thin, so I want less dough. Very sticky. Like I said, this is kind of like how a dumpling, so it's just going to be rolled up in the Swiss chard, like that, quite nicely. And you don't need toothpicks or anything, you're just going to arrange these. By the way, I have a whole other layer of my Swiss chard leaves. When I was looking at this recipe, I noticed that beet leaves, what we call the beet greens here, in a translation from German, beet leaves are known as beet chard, which makes a lot of sense because these taste and smell a lot like beet leaves, beet greens. And that's because they're the same family, but these don't grow a bulbous root. And we don't eat the roots. And now my hands are a little sticky, but we're just gonna keep going using a proportional amount of dough per whatever fits on the leaf. Okay, and then we're just gonna fill this up nicely in a nice pattern. I'm hoping I have about 20 of these. That's, like I said, the thick stems I cut out, but stems up to medium I left in because it's easier to wrap. Obviously this stem I cut out because it was very tough and long, and that made a very long piece of leftover leaf. So we're just gonna keep going till the dish is full, and then we're gonna make the baking sauce. And I'll show you that in the next phase. I'll keep going here. So I have my little capuns all rolled up with this delicious filling. Oh my God, even raw, it's smelling really good. And I have a little left, and I'll probably use those as drop, a kind of spätzle, like a pizzola. I'm gonna drop them in boiling water, but right now I'm focused on this, and the next stage is making the cream sauce. Within it will bake and it will cook the bacon, which is the only raw ingredient so far. Okay, so I'm making the baking sauce now. I'm going to put 200 milliliters of milk in a saucepan plus 100 milliliters of beef stock. Can be any kind of stock, can be vegetarian, but that would not really make a lot of sense considering how much meat is in the dough. And this dough should puff up quite beautifully. So we just want to bring that to a little bit of a scald, which is another way for saying not boiled, but almost boiled. Then we're going to pour it over the capuns. The oven is coming up to 350, and we're going to scatter it with Alpine cheese. In this case, I have Comte, and that's French Alpine cheese. That's what I could get here. I don't have access to any other kind. And when this comes to a boil, well, almost a boil, I'll get right back to you. Hey, so just check it out. The milk and bouillon, the beef bouillon, has come to a boil. Can you see it? And that means we can turn that off and just gently pour it over the capuns. And They're not going to fully cover it, but it's just enough. Can you see? And then, I'm going to put that away. I've got my cheese. I'm going to, some of it is not broken up. Hold on. These are big chunks. I did this with room temperature cheese. This is Comte. You could use any Alpine cheese that is hard but melty. All right. And I keep those big chunks out, like this one, for me to eat, because I love this stuff and I don't really buy it very often. And the oven's coming up. It will be up to, sorry, I said 350 before. It should be 395 or 400. And we'll place it in the oven for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And then in the meantime, we're gonna make garnishes, and that will include the capo di cola and the thick bacon, cooked down, fried down into a well, bacon bits basically, and I'll chop up the rest of this parsley, and it will be done. Okay, my lovelies, this is should be the finale of the Swiss Capuns, using the last of my Swiss chard from the Secret Garden and an onion from the Secret Garden. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, my glasses just steamed up. That was dumb. So it smells fantastic because of the Comte cheese and all those fillings. And it's bubbling and it's slightly browned. That's exactly what you want. And this will go down. It will deflate because the cream is kind of bubbling up. I want to turn off the oven. Oops. Cancel. I want to spread some fresh parsley over. I cut up quite a lot. It's not just for looks, but I didn't need all that. And here I made bacon bits, but I didn't make just any old bacon bits. I used that pork belly thick sliced bacon, and we're gonna just, and speck. What I used as speck, what are my artificial speck. Notice I'm using a slotted spoon, so because I didn't have a chance to pour out the oil and pat this dry to get the oil out, but I can hear it tinkle, tinkle, tinkle on my spoon, so I know it's quite dry. And I don't want to underuse it, and I don't want to overuse it. So basically it's done, and I want to show you. It looks exactly how I think it should look.